When Deion Sanders' son says no to the NFL, people pay attention. But SHEDEUR Sanders didn't reject the $2 million contract just to be defiant. He challenged a system that has long dictated how rookies should enter the league. Low pay now, promises later. That model might have worked in the past, but Sanders is betting it's obsolete. His $100 million Nike deal isn't a flex. It's a calculated blow to a structure that assumes athletes must wait to earn their value. He's calling out the NFL's rules, and he's doing it with a smile. This isn't about ego. It's about strategy. SHEDEUR Sanders is carving out a model that fuses athlete and entrepreneur, where performance on the field is just one layer of value. He's already forced brands and leagues to rethink their offers, not just in dollars, but in equity, influence, and creative control. The NFL can't brush this off. Sanders just showed every future rookie what it looks like to own your worth, before anyone else tries to define it for you. $2 million. That's what the NFL thought was a reasonable starting point for SHEDEUR Sanders, a quarterback with the numbers, the pedigree, and a cultural footprint that most rookies could only dream of. And he said no. Not politely, not passively. He turned it down with full awareness of what that no really meant. Then, in the same breath, he locked in a Nike deal worth a reported $100 million. That's not just an upgrade. That's a straight-up revolt against the old system. And now, the NFL is officially on notice. This wasn't just a decision about money. It was about power, value, control. It was SHEDEUR telling the most powerful sports league in the country, I don't need you to be successful. You might need me. And that's a narrative the NFL has never been comfortable with. Because for decades, they've operated on the belief that their platform is the prize. That players, especially rookies, should take what they're offered, stay quiet, and be grateful. SHEDEUR blew that narrative wide open. He looked at a $2 million contract and saw it for what it really was, not a reward, but an opening bid. One that came with strings, restrictions, ownership of his image, access to his story. And instead of taking it, he leveraged his existing brand, social presence, and cultural impact to land something far more valuable. Not just more money, but more control. And Nike knew what they were doing. They're not just buying talent. They're betting on a cultural force. Because SHEDEUR's appeal goes way beyond stats. He's not just marketable. He's mold-breaking.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
A Gen Z athlete with a legacy name, a massive digital following, and a level of business savvy that rivals people twice his age. That $100 million deal isn't about sneakers. It's about influence. And this is where it gets deeper. Because buried in this headline is something even more disruptive. Ownership. SHEDEUR has already shown, through deals like Gatorade, that he's not just cashing checks. He's negotiating equity. Clauses that give him a piece of the brand's success. That means he's not just repping the product. He owns part of the product. He's turning sponsorships into partnerships, endorsements into investments. He's building a business model that looks a lot more like Silicon Valley than SportsCenter. This is what makes the NFL nervous. They're used to players entering the league with nothing but ambition. They're used to being the ones who make stars. But SHEDEUR flipped the script. He walked in with a fully formed empire, audience, brand, and capital already in place. So when the league tried to start him at the bottom, he walked away. Because why take crumbs when you already have your own kitchen? And yes, the media reactions have been mixed. Some people are calling it genius, a sign that athletes are finally understanding their worth. Others are calling it arrogant, risky, irresponsible. But let's be honest, most of that criticism is rooted in discomfort with seeing someone this young, this confident, and this black take full control of their future without permission. SHEDEUR's not the first to face it. We've seen this story before: Cam Newton, LeBron James, even Colin Kaepernick. Whenever a black athlete shows confidence and commands the spotlight on their terms, the backlash follows. People start throwing around words like ego and entitlement instead of calling it what it is, self-respect. And this time, it's not just a cultural conversation, it's an economic one. Because SHEDEUR's move has real implications. Not just for rookies, not just for quarterbacks, but for how the entire sports industry operates. If one player can walk away from a traditional deal and build a bigger one independently, what stops others from doing the same? That's the part that has executives quietly panicking. Because the old system was built on compliance, on scarcity, on the idea that there were only so many slots, so many checks, so many chances. That idea only works if players buy into it, if they believe they need the system to win. But NIL changed the math. Athletes now enter the league with their own platforms, their own income, their own leverage. And if the league isn't offering something better than what they already have, then why sign? Why settle? That's what SHEDEUR exposed. And he did it by acting not like a rookie, but like a CEO. He's part of a new generation of athlete that's not just aware of their value. They're acting on it. They're not just collecting endorsements. They're demanding equity. They're not just lending their face to campaigns. They want creative control, product input, and a stake in the outcome. And Nike saw that. They didn't offer him a basic deal. They offered him the future. We're not just talking about a logo on a cleat. This is product co-development. This is royalty structures. This is brand building. They didn't sign a player. They signed a movement. One that speaks directly to young consumers, future athletes, and an entire market that's tired of the old rules. Because this isn't just happening in sports. It's music, film, fashion, tech. All the industries where talent used to get used and discarded are finally being flipped upside down. The model's shifting from exploitation to equity, from gatekeeping to ownership, from lucky to be here to you're lucky to have me. And SHEDEUR? He's just the latest proof that it works. He's bypassed the old roadmap completely. And in doing so, he's created a new one. One where rookies walk in with agency, with awareness, with receipts. And if they're told to start small, they can say no, just like he did. The question now isn't, was this smart? The question is, what happens next? Because you can bet this move didn't go unnoticed. Every high school and college athlete watching this unfold just saw something revolutionary. A blueprint for how to control your narrative before the system ever tries to write it for you. And a clear reminder that value isn't just measured by contracts. It's measured by freedom. Whether SHEDEUR becomes a Hall of Famer or not, he's already won something much bigger, leverage. And that's the one thing the NFL has never liked giving away. So what do you think? Did SHEDEUR just pull off the most strategic move in rookie history? Or is this going to backfire down the road? Should more athletes start walking into negotiations like they're running the room? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if this shook your expectations even a little. And make sure you're subscribed if you want to stay on top of every power play, plot twist, and PR disaster still to come. Because this story? Oh, it's only the beginning. You know it's big when the NFL starts sweating over one player. But here we are, watching SHEDEUR Sanders send the most powerful sports institution in the country into a full-blown identity crisis with a single move. The guy turned down a $2 million contract like it was a lowball offer on eBay, and then casually inked a deal with Nike worth 50 times that amount. That's not just a flex. That's a system break. Because this wasn't just SHEDEUR saying no to a contract. This was him saying no to a model. The model where rookies keep their heads down, say yes to whatever's on the table, and hope they're lucky enough to get paid what they're worth later. If they survive the injuries, the cuts, the politics. That whole, prove yourself first, then maybe we'll talk routine. He skipped it. And the fallout is bigger than the NFL wants to admit. We're watching a generational shift in real time. Athletes like SHEDEUR aren't just stepping into pro sports with talent. They're stepping in with leverage, followers, digital empires, prior brand deals. They already know how to go viral, how to sell products, how to monetize their image. So when a league tries to act like it's doing them a favor with a few $1 million and some TV time, the math doesn't add up anymore. SHEDEUR didn't reject the NFL. He rejected the assumptions that come with being a rookie, that you should be grateful, that you should wait your turn, that you don't get to set the terms. Instead, he said, actually, I know exactly what I bring to the table. And if you're not matching that value, I'll take my brand elsewhere. Cue the panic in league offices across the country. Because this isn't just a one-time thing. This is precedent. The kind that keeps general managers up at night. If one high-profile athlete can publicly decline a standard rookie deal and immediately secure generational wealth through private brand negotiation, what's stopping the next wave of talent from doing the same? That's not a contract problem. That's a control problem. For decades, the NFL has functioned on a power imbalance, one where teams hold all the cards, and players just hope they're dealt a decent hand. But SHEDEUR just flipped the deck and started dealing for himself. And in doing so, he exposed just how fragile that control really is. Because the truth is, the NFL needs stars. Not just athletes, personalities, cultural forces, guys who can move product and ratings in equal measure. And those stars? They're starting to figure out that their value doesn't begin and end with what they do on the field. In SHEDEUR's case, his value lives in every aspect of his brand. His legacy, his performance, his voice, his platform. He's not just a quarterback. He's content. He's community. He's commerce. And the Nike deal proves that. Let's talk about what that $100 million really means. Because it's not just about cash. That deal represents a completely different kind of relationship between athlete and brand. Not just we pay you to wear our stuff. This is next level, co-creation, strategic alignment, and possibly equity. That's ownership. That's long-term wealth. That's involvement in the actual business, not just the marketing plan. And Nike didn't hand him that kind of deal out of kindness. They saw the writing on the wall. The old model of athlete endorsements is fading. The next generation doesn't want to be the face of a campaign. They want a piece of it. They want, say, strategy, upside. And SHEDEUR gave them the perfect opportunity to build that kind of partnership, while showing the rest of the industry that this is the new standard. But don't think everyone's cheering. Veterans like Chris Carter have already voiced concern. There's a fear that by rejecting the traditional route, SHEDEUR could be jeopardizing his long-term career. That he's skipping important steps. That maybe he's too focused on being a mogul and not enough on being a player. And to some extent, those concerns sound valid. But here's the thing. They're based on an outdated view of how value is built. These aren't the days when you needed the league to build your name. SHEDEUR already has a name. He's not sacrificing his future. He's controlling it. That makes people uncomfortable, especially in a world that's used to seeing young athletes, especially black ones, play the role of humble up-and-comer. The minute someone asserts themselves, the criticism flips. Confidence becomes cockiness. Vision becomes arrogance. But what we're really watching here is a shift in who gets to define success. For SHEDEUR, success isn't just about touchdown stats and signing bonuses. It's about freedom. Freedom to choose, to speak, to create. Freedom to not rely on a system that was never designed to protect him long-term. And if that makes people uncomfortable, so be it. Because this movement isn't slowing down. In fact, it's picking up steam. Thanks to NIL, athletes now walk into college with the ability to monetize their brand. Some of them are making 6 and 7 figures before they ever graduate. By the time they're draft eligible, they've already built business portfolios. Some of them are more media savvy than the networks that cover them. So when they get approached with that traditional rookie deal, it doesn't feel like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It feels like a step backward. That's what the NFL is going to have to reckon with. The talent they're courting no longer sees the league as the finish line. It's just one option. A platform, sure, but not the only one. And if they don't start offering more than just visibility and a paycheck, they're going to lose out on the next SHEDEUR. And that scares them. Because once the control starts to slip, it's hard to get it back. What SHEDEUR just did wasn't reckless. It was strategic. He saw the numbers. He saw the optics. He saw the bigger picture. And he acted in a way that sent a message not just to the league, but to every athlete watching. You can say no. You can demand more. You don't have to wait for validation. And maybe most importantly, you don't have to trade your story for a seat at the table. You own your story. And if the table won't make room, build your own. Whether or not SHEDEUR goes on to have a Hall of Fame career is beside the point. He's already shifted the conversation around what rookies can ask for, what deals should look like, and how power can be claimed, not given. He didn't just turn down a contract. He redefined what a rookie quarterback can be. And now the NFL is stuck playing catch-up. Let's get one thing straight. This isn't about whether SHEDEUR Sanders will make it in the NFL. That's the distraction. That's the debate people run to when they're uncomfortable with what his decision really means. Because if they can reduce it to football, stats, mechanics, future performance, then they don't have to talk about what's actually happening. And what's happening is a dismantling of the way the sports industry has operated for generations. For decades, the NFL has been the gatekeeper. They decide when you're ready, what you're worth, how much you get paid, and what story gets told about you. And most players, especially rookies, fall in line. Not because they want to, but because they've been conditioned to think they have no choice. That you earn the right to have a voice. That you earn the ability to negotiate. SHEDEUR didn't buy into that. And the chaos his decision created? That's the sound of an institution realizing it can no longer control every narrative. Because he didn't just walk away from $2 million. He walked away from a power structure, from the assumption that young athletes should be silent, compliant, and thankful. That the brand is bigger than the player. That visibility is payment enough. And what did he walk into? A $100 million Nike deal that breaks every mold. Let's not pretend this is normal. This isn't just the biggest nil-to-pro transition deal we've ever seen. It's one of the clearest examples of what the future looks like when athletes stop seeing themselves as replaceable and start moving like entrepreneurs. Think about it. SHEDEUR was already doing equity deals in college. The Gatorade clause? That wasn't some lucky fluke. That was an intentional move to turn a sponsorship into long-term wealth, into ownership, into passive income tied to performance, not just appearance. That's what people keep missing. This isn't someone chasing fast money. It's someone building a model for sustainable power. He's not trying to be rich. He's trying to be free. The Nike deal? Same blueprint. High value, high control. Probably includes input on product development, branding, even royalties. Maybe even ownership if reports hold up. That's not a check. That's equity. That's future-proofing. That's what startup founders negotiate, not rookie quarterbacks. And it works because of who SHEDEUR is, not just athletically, but culturally. He's not just relevant, he moves culture. He creates viral moments. He commands attention. He's fluent in the internet, fluent in influence, fluent in narrative control. And that's what scares the league. Because for once, they're not driving the story. SHEDEUR doesn't need to go on ESPN to tell you what's next. He'll tell you himself, on Instagram, on TikTok, in a documentary, in a shoe drop. The media machine that used to build stars is now playing catch-up with the stars that built themselves. And the NFL knows it. They've lost their monopoly on visibility. And SHEDEUR's move made that fact unavoidable. There's a reason this deal has divided the media. The praise is loud. But so is the pushback. Some are calling him a pioneer, a symbol of player empowerment, a blueprint for the modern athlete. Others are calling him disconnected, reckless, entitled. But you've heard this before. It's the same language they used for LeBron when he left Cleveland, for Serena when she spoke up, for Colin when he took a knee. The minute a black athlete steps outside the box and acts with intentional power, the narrative war begins. And that's exactly what SHEDEUR stepped into, on purpose. He knew what the reaction would be. He knew the headlines would come, the critics would pile on, the sports world would clutch its pearls. And he did it anyway. Because his goal wasn't to be safe. It was to shift the center of gravity. And it's working. The NFL's model is under pressure now. They can't just dangle the draft like it's the end-all be-all. Athletes are starting to ask better questions. What does this deal give me? What does it take from me? Is this contract setting me up for a career, or making me dependent on one. That kind of thinking is dangerous if you're the one writing the rules. But if you're the one living under them, that kind of thinking is liberation. SHEDEUR didn't burn a bridge. He built a lane. And it's a lane that others are already eyeing. You think college athletes aren't watching this unfold in real time? You think agents and brand reps aren't adjusting their strategy based on this one deal? They are. Because they know what this really is, a new template. And that template is based on ownership, control, value alignment. It says, don't just be the face of the brand, own a stake in it. Don't just take the deal, structure it. Don't just assume you're lucky to be here, act like they're lucky to have you. The old way of doing business relied on fear. What if you blow your shot? What if you never get this chance again? But SHEDEUR isn't operating from fear. He's operating from understanding of the market, of his worth, of how to play long-term. And honestly, that's what rattles the NFL most. Because when players start negotiating from a place of power, they stop being easy to manage. When they don't need the contract, they're not afraid to question it. When they don't need the spotlight, they can walk away from it. And when one of them actually does walk away, and then signs one of the biggest endorsement deals we've ever seen, that's the kind of thing that shifts the whole ecosystem. So no, this isn't just about one player. This is about what happens next. Because now the league has to ask itself some uncomfortable questions. Can it keep treating rookies like they're lucky just to be drafted? Can it keep pretending its visibility is enough of a reward? Can it still dominate a media landscape that increasingly favors individuals over institutions? Because right now, SHEDEUR is proving that the NFL structure is optional. That's the part no one wants to say out loud. That the league might need players like SHEDEUR more than players like SHEDEUR need the league. And that's a revolution. You can feel the tension rising. Execs are scrambling behind the scenes, agents are rewriting playbooks, and athletes are asking questions they weren't allowed to ask before. What else can I own? What else can I control? What am I leaving on the table if I just say yes and stay quiet? That door is open now, and there's no closing it. So what do you think? Did SHEDEUR just drop the most game-changing move in modern sports history? Or is this a risky power play that could backfire? Are we witnessing a one-time shakeup or the beginning of a total rewrite? Let us know in the comments. Hit like if you think the old playbook is officially dead, and make sure to subscribe for more stories breaking down the chaos, power shifts, and cultural moments reshaping sports and celebrity from inside out. Because this is just chapter 1.